you the latest in-depth analysis on all the key stories that we're covering. I'm Eric Ham. Join me from Washington here on Firstpost America. Hello everyone, and thanks so much for tuning in. Today there's more turmoil with Donald Trump's nominees along with U.S. airstrikes in Syria. We've got the latest on all that and more, but we start with the latest headlines. South Korea's defense minister offers his resignation as opposition leaders begin the impeachment of President Yoon Suk-yeol. This after President Yoon imposed martial law, sending the country into chaos. NATO members agreed to defend Ukraine's critical infrastructure facilities from Russian attacks. Meanwhile, Lithuania and Estonia call for the inclusion of Ukraine into NATO. A Chinese patrol boat fires water cannons at a Philippines Coast Guard vessel in the contested waters of the South China Sea. Manila accuses Beijing of unprovoked and aggressive actions. The Democratic Republic of Congo raises an international alert after an unknown disease kills at least 140 in the country's southwest. Local doctors say the virus is causing flu-like symptoms and is severely affecting women and children. And Colombia apologizes to Sudan after several Colombian mercenaries take part in Sudan's ongoing civil war. The Colombian mercenaries were captured or killed while fighting against the Sudanese army. We begin in the Middle East. The U.S. Air Force carried out airstrikes in Eastern Syria on Tuesday night. A-10 Thunderbolt ground attack aircraft, which are deployed in Syria, bombed militants that were preparing to launch large-scale attacks on American troops. Washington has called the airstrike self-defense as jets swept into action to defend American ground forces.
This morning, U.S. Central Command forces successfully destroyed several weapon systems in the vicinity of military support site Euphrates in Syria that included 3 truck-mounted multiple rocket launchers, a T-64 tank, and mortars that presented a clear and imminent threat to U.S. and coalition forces. The self-defense strike occurred after the mobile multiple rocket launchers fired rockets that landed in the vicinity of MSS Euphrates, and mortars were fired towards U.S. forces.
Now, there are about 900 American troops deployed in eastern Syria who are instrumental in tracking the movements of terror groups in the region. And ever since the anti-government rebels swept through western Syria, the U.S. troops in the east have come under heavy fire.
We're still assessing who is operating these weapons, but do know that there are Iranian-backed militia groups in the area that have conducted attacks on MSS Euphrates in the past. There are also Syrian military forces that operate in the area. To be clear, these self-defense actions successfully eliminated imminent threats to U.S. personnel and were not linked to any broader activities in northwest Syria by other groups.
Meanwhile, anti-government Islamist rebels are now on the outskirts of the central city of Hama after having already captured Idlib and Aleppo. If Hama fails, the rebel forces will then be just about 100 miles away from the capital, Damascus, where Syria's leader Bashar al-Assad is fortifying his presidential palace.
It's our homeland. We're living in our homeland, on our land, in our country. We won't leave. That's all. Whatever happens, we won't leave.
Syria, our troops, our young people, they're what's right. But the rebels are all strangers who want to control the country. It's clear what they want. They want to steal, to loot. They want everything. That's not a war. It's a war of thieves.
Meanwhile, the United States and Russia accused each other for the chaos in Syria, with Washington blaming Moscow for supporting terrorism in the region.
The fact that HTS is listed as a terrorist organization by the U.S. and UN does not justify the further atrocities by the Assad regime and its Russian backers. Since November 27, these have included attacks by the regime and its Russian backers on schools and hospitals in both Idlib and Aleppo, causing civilian casualties.
You have been asserting that the attacks against Syria were perpetrated by certain rebels whom in your nefarious picture of the world, the terrorists and extremists transform into attacking those countries who are carrying out independent policy that does not advance the interests of the United States, policies that do not advance U.S. interests. You did not even notice how you betrayed yourselves, having promised to protect not the lives of ordinary civilians, but just those of U.S. troops who are illegally occupying certain areas of Syria and who are unconscionably looting the resources of that country.
Now, the United States has had a military presence in Syria since 2014 when it entered the region to defeat ISIS. 5 years later, in 2019, Washington defeated the terror network in Syria, but has maintained a sizable troop contingent in the country's east to prevent ISIS from ever returning. And here in the United States, President-elect Donald Trump is reportedly looking to replace his Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth with Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. This comes after the former Fox News host Hegseth nomination draws continued backlash for his previous sexual and financial scandals. Hegseth studied at Princeton and Harvard and served as a National Guardsman in Iraq, Afghanistan, and at Guantanamo Bay. While nominating Hegseth for the top Pentagon post, Donald Trump highlighted the 44-year-old's military experience. However, critics continue to point out that Hegseth doesn't have the relevant or extensive experience that is typical for a cabinet-level position.
The nomination of Hegseth for Secretary of Defense is very unexpected and very unusual. He has excellent qualifications as a military officer, a junior officer. He's got excellent educational credentials, but he has no high-level national security experience and has never run a large organization.
A police report from 2017 detailed accusations of sexual misconduct against Hegseth. In fact, a woman alleged that he sexually assaulted her in a hotel room while she was intoxicated, a claim that the Republican denies. And even though the former Fox News host was never charged or arrested, in 2020 he paid the woman as part of a non-disclosure agreement, fearing that a lawsuit would end his well-established career.
Did you sexually assault a woman in Monterey, California?
I have, as far as the media is concerned, I'll keep this very simple. The matter was fully investigated, and I was completely cleared, and that's from illegal. Thank you very much.
Even more damning, a whistleblower report revealed that Hegseth was removed as the head of a veterans charity about 10 years ago due to financial mismanagement, frequent public intoxication, and infidelity. Other reported allegations include that of Hegseth's mother, who called him an abuser of women in 2018 when he was in the middle of a divorce from his first wife. Now reports say that at least 6 senators could oppose Hegseth's nomination, even though Donald Trump publicly backs him. On the other hand, Ron DeSantis, who ran against Donald Trump in the Republican primary before dropping out, has no such scandalous baggage. The only thing that could deter his chance is his love-hate relationship with Donald Trump. The incoming president, who once wholeheartedly supported DeSantis as Florida governor, deemed him disloyal for entering the GOP primary last year.
And you have about, 7 or 8 candidates left? I think they're at a debate tonight. Nobody's talking about it. Everybody's watching. So it's 61% for your favorite president, me, and 10% for Ron DeSanctimonious, and 7% for Bird Brain.
DeSantis, too, grew more critical of Donald Trump, calling out his hush money trial, half-baked border wall promises, and old age. Now, will the governor, who is in his last term, do a complete 180 and walk away from the Republican fiefdom he built in Florida to serve in the Trump administration? If so, it would be a major coup for Donald Trump. And moving to South America, Venezuela's oil exports significantly increased last month, nearing 1 million barrels per day, all because of higher sales to Asia. According to Reuters, Venezuela's state oil company and other joint ventures exported an average of 975,000 barrels per day of crude and fuel in November. Now, this was a 10% rise from the October figures and a 57% increase from November of last year. Data also shows that the majority of Venezuelan oil was shipped to Asia, with the largest buyers being China and India. Last month, sales to Asia jumped to around 613,000 barrels every day from 526,000 barrels per day in October. Shipments to Europe more than doubled in 1 month. Venezuela's oil exports to its political ally, Cuba, also surged to 38,000 barrels per day. Growing exports of Venezuela's oil come even as the country grapples with the lack of investment and frequent accidents. In fact, last month, a large explosion at one of Venezuela's main natural gas centers cost millions of dollars.
Responsibilities have already been determined. 11 people with responsibility in these criminal acts have been deprived of liberty and are under investigation. There is a foreigner who escaped. He left the country the same day he carried out this malicious maneuver that caused the explosion in this main gas distribution complex in the country. Regarding the case of PDVSA's oil and gas, the impact has been $157.8 million. In the petrochemical industry, almost $56 million. In the CVG and the basic companies, almost $30 million.
En la CVG, en las empresas básicas, casi $30 millones.
Now, it's important to note that Caracas has not seen such large exports of crude and refined products in 4 years, owing to sanctions by the United States since 2019. In fact, its oil shipments to Washington saw a decline in November compared to October. Venezuela's exports oil to the United States only through American oil giant Chevron, which has been granted a special license by Washington. However, President-elect Donald Trump, who will retake office in January, is expected to revise U.S. policies toward Caracas, which could lead to renegotiations of licensing agreements. Venezuela's disputed leader Nicolas Maduro hopes Donald Trump will start fresh bilateral relations with his country.
We did not do well in the first administration of re-elected President Donald Trump. It is a new beginning for us to bet on winning and for the United States and Venezuela to do well. We always advocate for Latin America and the Caribbean to do well. As much as there have been tensions in relations when they tried to attempt against Trump's life twice, I do not hesitate for a second to express my solidarity and wish him good health and a long life. Today, I want to wish him luck in his government, and that his proposals and electoral offers have a good destiny. Here will be Nicolas Maduro, re-elected constitutional president of Venezuela, always ready for positive relations with the United States and the whole world.
Now, given Donald Trump's America First mantra and his drill baby drill moniker, it seems unlikely the president-elect will be eager to boost Venezuelan oil production. And staying in South America, Peru's President Dina Boluarte has hit a shocking 3% approval rating, which is one of the lowest ever recorded for a leader. Her presidency has been marred by scandals including Rolex Gate, where unexplained luxury watches and jewelry raised questions about her involvement in corruption. She's now made headlines once again for vanishing from office last year for a secret nose job. Here's more on the scandal-plagued leader.
Peru's political foundations are crumbling under immense pressure. President Dina Boluarte, who's grappling with an unprecedented 3% approval rating, now faces what many consider a global low for a leader in a democracy. The disapproval is palpable. While her rise was dramatic, replacing ousted leftist Pedro Castillo in 2022, her transformation from a Marxist ally to a pro-business centrist has sparked outrage.
A day such as today, December 7th, a dictatorship rose on Congress, where they kidnapped our President Pedro Castillo Terrones. No matter what, Pedro Castillo Terrones is still our democratically elected president for 5 years.
Boluarte's scandals have added fuel to the fire. Her unexplained luxury, dubbed Rolex Gate, shocked a struggling nation.
She has 2 Rolexes. I have met her twice. and both times she had a different Rolex. It was a curious fact. We realized that the most expensive watches, the Rolexes, had appeared when she was president and not before. In fact, the watches appeared when she had already been president for a few months.
Even her excuses fell flat.
On the subject of the watches, I must admit that it was an error to accept as a loan those watches from my friend Wilfredo Oscarima. My brother lent them to me, perhaps in the spirit of wanting to represent my country well.
Meanwhile, even though the prosecutors probed $300,000 in mysterious payments and police raided her family home, the answers continue to remain elusive. But this was not the only scandal that happened. In mid-2023, the Peruvian president briefly vanished for over 2 weeks. The reason? A secret rhinoplasty for breathing issues.
She told me she was going to get a rhinoplasty, a surgery on the nose, but for breathing problems.
Basically, Peru's president underwent a nose job at a surgery clinic in the capital Lima, and she was gone for nearly 2 weeks. And so, Peru's lawmakers debated impeachment, citing the president's dereliction of duty. Boluarte dismissed it all as hysteria, and critics saw it as yet another example of a detachment from the nation and responsibilities.
It would be cause for dismissal because the president should have asked permission from Congress.
Peru's hardships continue to deepen as leadership flounders. Violent crime surges, gangs plant grenades in schools, bus drivers fall victim to murder. Yet Boluarte and Congress redefined organized crime, shielding extortionists. As per Human Rights Watch report, over half of Congress's members face investigations, and instead of accountability, they pursue self-preservation. As Peruvians lose hope, many leave. Over 400,000 emigrated in 6 months.
We stayed in a park from the morning until night. We wanted to make it here, but we couldn't. The body couldn't take it anymore. My legs hurt me a lot. It wasn't only me who was tired, but other mothers couldn't walk anymore.
Some demand authoritarian measures inspired by El Salvador's Nayib Bukele. The others dream of elections to end the chaos. Even though President Boluarte's term stretches to 2026, the question is, will she last? For now, the president remains defiant, adorned in luxury and plastic surgery, dismissing all criticism.
And finally, from Japan, authorities have recalled a collector's item from the Harry Potter franchise for violating Japan's strict weapons law. The 34-inch replica of Harry Potter's Gryffindor sword sold for $200 at Tokyo's Warner Brothers studio. But now authorities are asking buyers to return their prized possession or risk hefty fines, including prison time. Our final report has the latest.
In the land of cherry blossoms and strict rules, even magic falters. Japan, known for its rich traditions and low crime rates, has once again proven that no exception exists when it comes to its weapons laws. Not even for the fantastical world of Harry Potter. Replica swords inspired by Godric Gryffindor's iconic weapon have been recalled. These swords were sold at the Warner Brothers studio tour in Tokyo, the largest indoor Harry Potter attraction globally. Fans eagerly purchased them between May 2023 and April 2024 at $200 each. The replicas were considered prized collector's items, complete with a wooden display plaque. But the enchantment soon wore off. Japanese authorities flagged the 34-inch long decorative swords for being too sharp. Under Japan's stringent firearms and swords control law, blades longer than 2 inches must either be blunted for decorative purposes or registered as weapons. And these swords met neither requirement. Over 350 replicas were sold before the recall notice surfaced in late November. The studio described the issue as a distribution problem, though Japanese media painted a sharper picture. Reports from Japanese outlets revealed that the sword's sharpness breached Japan's regulations, transforming them from harmless souvenirs into illegal weapons. Japan enforces some of the world's strictest weapons laws. Carrying unregistered blades over 2 inches can lead to severe penalties that's up to 10 million yen or $200,000 in fines or 15 years in prison. The studio swiftly issued an apology urging customers to return the items. Buyers were promised assistance with logistics and refunds. However, the buyers were not too keen to comply. Taking to X, several people expressed their displeasure, calling the sword unholy, while some called Japan's strict laws extremely abnormal, and some were just posting memes. Now, it's also worth noting that the controversial replica is based on the legendary weapon from the Harry Potter universe. In the series, Gryffindor's sword is a goblin-forged blade that only appears to those of true bravery. It famously helped slay a basilisk and destroy Voldemort's Horcruxes. Fans worldwide cherish its mythic significance, making the Tokyo replicas all the more coveted. For Potterheads, the story might feel bittersweet, but Japan's unwavering commitment to safety remains a testament to its values. As for Gryffindor's sword, it's a reminder that in some places, even magic needs a permit.
That's our show for today, everyone. We certainly thank you for tuning in. We look forward to seeing you right back here again tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. From impeachments to inaugurations, if it's a political story, we are on the scene. If it's breaking news, we're live with the latest coverage. From the White House, the State Department, and Capitol Hill, we know the issue.